Why do women cheat? A heartbreaking love story. Level 3 English listening practice. Claire had been married for 8 years. On the outside, her marriage looked perfect. A nice house. A stable job. A husband who never raised his voice. But inside, Claire felt something she could not explain. She felt invisible. This is the story of why she made a choice that changed everything. And what it cost both her and the man she once loved. Chapter 1. Claire's story. Claire and Daniel met in university. In a small coffee shop near their campus. Claire was studying literature. Daniel was studying finance. They were both ambitious. They were both full of dreams about the future. Claire wanted to work with books. Daniel wanted to build a successful career. They were young. They were hopeful. And they believed love would be enough. They fell in love quickly. Within 2 years, they were married. Their friends called them the perfect couple. They seemed compatible in every way. They had the same humor. They shared the same values. They wanted the same kind of life. A warm home. A peaceful marriage. And one day, a family of their own. For the first 3 years, life felt easy. Daniel worked hard at a small finance company. Slowly, he began climbing the ladder. Claire worked as an editor at a publishing house. She spent her days reading stories, fixing sentences, and helping writers make their books better. In the evenings, Claire and Daniel cooked dinner together. Sometimes they burned the food and laughed about it. Sometimes they sat on the sofa and talked for hours. They traveled when they could. They took pictures. They made plans. They believed they were building something strong. But then, slowly, something began to shift. Before we continue, let's learn 4 useful words from this part of the story. The first word is ambitious. Ambitious means wanting to achieve success or power. For example, Claire and Daniel were both ambitious when they were young. The second word is compatible. Compatible means able to work well together, or live well together. For example, they seemed compatible in every way. The third word is shift. Shift means a small change. For example, something began to shift in their relationship. The fourth phrase is publishing house. A publishing house is a company that produces books. For example, Claire worked as an editor at a publishing house. Now, let's continue the story. Daniel got a promotion. It was something he had worked for. And Claire was proud of him. She knew how hard he had tried. She knew how many late nights he had spent preparing reports, answering emails, and proving himself at work. But the promotion came with a cost. Longer hours, more travel, more stress, more phone calls during dinner, more messages late at night. At first, Claire did not mind. She told herself it was temporary. She told herself things would slow down once Daniel settled into the new role. She told herself, "This is just a busy season." But months passed, and Daniel only became more distant. He answered work emails during dinner. He checked his phone while Claire was speaking. He fell asleep on the couch instead of talking with her. When Claire tried to share something about her day, Daniel would nod and say, "That's nice." Then he would look back at his phone. At first, Claire tried to be patient. She understood pressure. She understood responsibility. She understood that adults had to work hard. But understanding something does not always stop it from hurting. Claire began to feel like a stranger in her own home. She still lived with Daniel. She still slept beside him. She still cooked in the same kitchen. But emotionally, he felt far away. One night, she finally tried to talk to him. She stood near the kitchen counter, holding a cup of tea that had already gone cold. "I feel like we barely see each other," she said. Daniel looked tired. He rubbed his eyes and sighed. "I'm just busy right now," he replied. "It'll get better." Claire wanted to believe him. She really did. But it did not get better. It got worse. Let's pause for more useful words. The first word is temporary. Temporary means lasting for only a short time. For example, she thought the stress was only temporary. The second word is distant. Distant means emotionally cold or far away, even when someone is physically near you. For example, Daniel became more distant every month. The third word is stranger. A stranger is someone you do not know. But in this story, Claire feels like a stranger in her own home. That means her home feels unfamiliar to her. The fourth word is barely. Barely means almost not at all. For example, we barely see each other anymore. Now, let's continue. One Monday morning, a new editor joined Claire's team. His name was Mark. He was friendly, calm, and unlike Daniel, he was present. When Mark talked to Claire, he actually listened. He looked at her. He asked follow-up questions. He remembered small details she had mentioned days earlier. At first, it meant nothing. They worked on a few projects together. They talked about books. They got coffee during breaks. Mark made her laugh in a way she had not laughed in months. Claire told herself it was just friendship. Nothing more. A harmless friendship. A normal friendship. But slowly, she began to notice things about herself. She started getting ready more carefully before work. She chose her clothes with more attention. She checked her hair in the mirror twice. She thought about their conversations long after she got home. And every time she saw Mark's name appear in her messages, she felt a small flutter of excitement. Claire knew, somewhere deep inside, that the attention she was receiving from Mark was filling a hole that Daniel had left empty. And that frightened her. Because sometimes, the most dangerous feeling is not desire. It is feeling seen after feeling invisible for too long. Let's learn 4 words and phrases from this section. The first word is present. Present means fully paying attention and being emotionally there in the moment. For example, unlike Daniel, Mark was present when they talked. The second word is flutter. Flutter means a quick feeling of excitement or nervousness. For example, she felt a small flutter of excitement. The third word is attention. Attention means careful focus or interest given to someone. For example, Mark gave Claire the attention she missed. The fourth phrase is fill a hole. To fill a hole means to satisfy an emotional need that is missing. For example, Mark's attention was filling a hole inside her. Now, let's continue the story. 6 months after Mark joined the team, Claire and Daniel had their worst fight yet. It started over something small. Daniel forgot their anniversary dinner reservation because of a work call. Claire had been waiting for that evening all week. She had chosen a dress. She had left work early. She had imagined sitting across from Daniel, talking like they used to. But Daniel did not come home on time. He called late. His voice was hurried. "I'm sorry," he said. "Something came up at work." Claire stood in the bedroom, still wearing the dress. For a moment, she said nothing. Then her voice broke. "You always choose work over me." Daniel snapped back. "I'm doing this for us. Someone has to think about our future." Claire stared at the wall. Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't want a future where I feel alone," she whispered. Daniel did not answer. He just walked into the other room and closed the door. That night, Claire sat alone in the kitchen. The house was quiet. The table was clean. The tea was cold. And for the first time, she let herself imagine a different life. A life where someone noticed her. A life where someone asked how she felt. A life where she did not feel invisible. The next day, she texted Mark. "Can we get coffee after work? I need to talk to someone." It was a small message. Just a few words. But it was the beginning of everything that came next. Let's pause for vocabulary. The first word is reservation. A reservation is an arrangement to have a table, room, or seat kept for you. For example, Daniel forgot their anniversary dinner reservation. The second phrase is snap back. Snap back means to reply quickly and angrily. For example, Daniel snapped back without thinking. The third word is whisper. Whisper means to speak very quietly. For example, "I don't want a future where I feel alone," she whispered. The fourth word is imagine. Imagine means to form a picture or idea in your mind. For example, Claire let herself imagine a different life. Now, let's continue. Claire and Mark's coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into long walks after work. Long walks turned into messages late at night. They did not plan for it to become something more. At least, that is what Claire told herself. But slowly, the line between friendship and something deeper began to disappear. Claire knew it was wrong. Every time she lied to Daniel about where she had been, a small part of her felt sick. Every time she deleted a message, she felt the weight of it. Every time she looked at Daniel across the room, she felt guilt rise inside her chest. But another part of her, a part that had been starving for attention for years, felt alive again. With Mark, she felt seen. She felt heard. She felt wanted. And that feeling became difficult to give up. For a few months, Claire lived two separate lives. At home, she was Daniel's wife, the woman who came back to a quiet house, the woman who smiled even when something inside her was breaking. But outside that house, with Mark, she felt like someone new, someone interesting, someone chosen. She told herself she would stop. She told herself it was temporary. Just like she had once believed Daniel's long working hours were temporary. But guilt has a way of growing quietly in the background, even when you try to ignore it. Let's learn for more words. The first word is starving. Here, starving is used emotionally. It means desperately lacking something you need. For example, a part of Claire had been starving for attention. The second word is seen. Seen means feeling noticed and understood by someone. For example, Claire felt seen, heard, and wanted. The third word is guilt. Guilt is the feeling of having done something wrong. For example, guilt grew quietly inside Claire. The fourth word is ignore. Ignore means to deliberately not pay attention to something. For example, Claire tried to ignore the guilt, but it kept growing. Chapter 2. Daniel's story. While Claire was falling into something new, Daniel had no idea his marriage was unraveling. From his perspective, he was doing everything right. He was working hard. He was trying to provide a comfortable life for Claire and for the future family he hoped they would have one day. He thought love meant responsibility. He thought love meant sacrifice. He thought love meant coming home tired because you had worked hard for the person you loved. But he did not realize something important. Providing and being present are two different things. One evening, Daniel came home early. This was rare. He carried flowers in one hand. In the other, he carried a small box of Claire's favorite chocolates. He wanted to surprise her. He wanted to apologize for their fight. He wanted to show her that he still cared. But Claire was not home. He called her. Her phone went straight to voicemail. He waited. 1 hour passed. Then another. When Claire finally came home, she looked surprised to see him. Daniel asked where she had been. Claire said she had been out with a coworker, getting advice about a work problem. Daniel believed her. He had no reason not to. But that night, lying next to her in bed, Daniel noticed something. Claire felt far away. She was close enough for him to touch. But emotionally, she felt further away than ever. He did not know it yet. But the marriage he thought was simply going through a hard season was actually falling apart. Let's pause for vocabulary. The first word is unravel. Unravel means to come apart, or to fall into disorder. For example, Daniel's marriage was unraveling without him realizing it. The second word is provide. Provide means to give someone what they need, especially financially. For example, Daniel worked hard to provide for their future. The third phrase is straight to voicemail. This means a phone call goes directly to a recorded message. For example, Claire's phone went straight to voicemail. The fourth phrase is going through a hard season. This means experiencing a difficult period in life. For example, Daniel thought they were just going through a hard season. Now, let's continue. 3 months later, Daniel had lunch with an old college friend named James. They talked about work. They talked about university memories. They laughed about old stories. Then, almost casually, James said something that changed everything. "Hey! Isn't your wife close with that guy from her office?" "Mark. I saw them at that cafe on 5th Street last weekend. They looked pretty cozy." Daniel laughed it off at first. "They're just co-workers," he said. But that night, the comment would not leave his mind. He thought about Claire's late nights. He thought about the work events she never used to have. He thought about the way she had become quieter around him, but somehow lighter when she was on her phone. Daniel did not want to believe it, but a part of him already knew. The next day, he found a message on Claire's laptop. She had accidentally left it open. It was a simple text from Mark. "Today was the best part of my week. I can't stop thinking about you." Daniel sat frozen at the kitchen table. He stared at those words for almost an hour. He read them again, and again, and again. The flowers he had bought days earlier were still in a vase near the window. Some of the petals had already begun to fall. Let's learn 4 words from this section. The first word is casually. Casually means in a relaxed, informal way, without much thought. For example, James mentioned it casually, like it was nothing. The second word is cozy. Cozy usually means warm and comfortable, but here, it suggests romantic closeness. For example, Claire and Mark looked cozy at the cafe. The third phrase is laugh it off. To laugh something off means to treat it as unimportant by laughing. For example, Daniel laughed it off at first. The fourth word is frozen. Frozen means unable to move or react because of shock. For example, Daniel sat frozen at the kitchen table. Now, let's continue. When Claire came home that evening, Daniel was sitting at the table. The laptop was open in front of him. The room felt strangely quiet. Claire stopped near the door. She saw his face, and immediately, she knew. Daniel looked at her and asked quietly, "Who is Mark?" Claire's face went pale. She knew there was no point lying anymore. "Daniel, she started. He interrupted her gently. "Just tell me the truth." His voice was not angry. It was hollow. That was worse. Claire sat down across from him. Her hands were shaking. She looked at the table instead of his eyes. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said. "I was so lonely. Daniel, I felt like I didn't exist to you anymore. And then someone actually saw me. And I made a terrible choice. I'm sorry." Daniel was quiet for a long time. He did not shout. He did not throw anything. He did not ask every detail. Finally, he asked the only question that mattered to him. Was I really that invisible to you? Claire could not answer, because the truth was yes. He had been. Let's pause for vocabulary. The first word is pale. Pale means having less color in the face, often because of shock or fear. For example, Claire's face went pale. The second word is hollow. Hollow means empty, or lacking real feeling or life. For example, Daniel's voice was not angry. It was hollow. The third word is exist. Exist means to be real, or to be present in someone's awareness. For example, Claire felt like she did not exist to Daniel anymore. The fourth word is invisible. Invisible means feeling unnoticed, as if no one sees you. For example, Daniel asked, "Was I really that invisible to you?" Now, let's continue. Claire and Daniel separated 3 weeks later. There was no shouting, no dramatic ending, no broken plates, no final speech that fixed everything. Just a quiet sadness that filled every conversation. They divided their belongings. They spoke to their friends. They packed pieces of a shared life into boxes. A life that once felt permanent now looked fragile and unfinished. Claire eventually ended things with Mark too. She realized something painful. What she had been looking for was not really about Mark. It was about being seen, being valued, being chosen every single day. Not only at the beginning of a relationship, not only when love is new and exciting, but years later, when life is ordinary, when bills arrive, when work is stressful, when dinner is simple, when two people must choose each other again and again. Daniel spent a long time blaming himself. He realized too late that loving someone quietly, through providing and working hard, is not the same as loving someone visibly, through attention, through presence, through small daily moments of connection. Neither of them was a villain in this story, but neither of them was innocent either. They were two people who slowly stopped showing up for each other, until the distance between them became impossible to close. So, why do women cheat? The answer is rarely simple. It is rarely only about attraction. It is rarely only about excitement. It is rarely only about wanting something new. Sometimes, it is about feeling unseen in a relationship that used to feel like home. Sometimes, it is about a slow, quiet loneliness that builds for months or years. Sometimes, it begins when someone else offers a small piece of attention that has been missing for too long. This does not make the choice right. Claire knew what she was doing was a betrayal. She knew it, even while she was doing it. But understanding why something happens can help people notice the warning signs earlier. The distance, the silence, the unanswered questions, the phone at the dinner table, the tired replies, the slow disappearance of attention. Love is not only about commitment. Love is also about showing up, again and again, in small moments, in ordinary days, in simple conversations, in the quiet choice to notice the person beside you. Because relationships are rarely destroyed all at once. Often, they are destroyed slowly. One missed conversation, one ignored feeling, one lonely evening at a time. And sometimes, by the time people understand what they have lost, the damage has already been done. Now let's review some of the important words and phrases from today's story. Ambitious, compatible, shift, temporary, distant, stranger, barely, present, flutter, attention, fill a hole, reservation, snapback, whisper, imagine, starving, scene, guilt, ignore, unravel, provide, casually, cozy, frozen, pale, hollow, exist, invisible, visibly, betrayal. Choose two of these words. Write your own sentences in the comments. For example, I felt invisible when nobody listened to me. Or, trust can unravel when two people stop communicating. Now let me ask you a question. Do you think Claire made the wrong choice? Or do you think Daniel also failed in the relationship? Write your answer in English. You can use simple sentences. There is no perfect answer. The goal is to practice your English and share your opinion. If this story touched you, please give this video a like. Subscribe for more Level 3 English stories every week. And remember, English improves when you listen, think, and speak. Thank you for watching. Keep learning. Keep practicing. And I will see you in the next story.